Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the national anthem of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may all be seated. Thank you, Mr. Kevin Richards. Kevin Richards performing our national anthem on our national instrument, the steel pan. Honorable Ministers of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, distinguished governors of central banks, AFI members and partners, specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Lizelle Ferguson, your host for the formal part of this morning's proceedings. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the official opening of the Alliance for Financial Inclusion, AFI, Global Policy Forum 2014. To all our foreign delegates, a special welcome to you all, to our beautiful Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. It is indeed a pleasure to have you here with us for the next few days. I know you may not have time to explore our Twin Island, but I will just share with you a taste of what this island has to offer. It is the home for the greatest show on earth, which I'm sure you know of, Carnival. Usually celebrated in February, March, it is the birthplace of our national instrument, the steel pan, which perform our national anthem, and not forgetting to mention our unique styles of music, the most popular being soca, calypso, chutney. These are just a few of the many gems that we possess. So with that said, we do hope you will be back soon, maybe Carnival 2015. All in all, we do hope you enjoy your stay here with us. Well, let's jump right into the reason why we're here. AFI Global Policy Forum is the annual meeting of AFI members and partners. And today we have more than 400 participants from more than 75 countries, all gathered here to discuss financial inclusion through this year's theme, Global Partnerships, National Goals, Empowering People. To start the ball rolling, it is my pleasure to invite on stage at this time Governor of the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, Governor Jwala Rambaran, with welcoming remarks.
Thank you very much, Lizelle. Governor Armando Tetango, Governor of the Central Bank of Philippines and Chair of the AFI Steering Committee, other members of AFI's Steering Committee, Governor Zeti Akhtar Aziz, Governor of our host country for AFI and future headquarters of AFI, fellow governors, deputy governors, and ministers of finance, including honorable ministers present here of the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Alfred Hanig, Executive Director of the AFI Management Unit, distinguished AFI delegates, specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Trinidad and Tobago. No journey is complete if you do not remember where you started. Destiny is indeed powerful. It was fate for our paths to meet here at the 6th Annual Global Policy Forum in Port of Spain. For some of you, your journey to the GPF 2014 started perhaps 6 years ago when you were among the first members of AFI attending the GPF. Or perhaps it started before. I understand for some of you, the journey to GPF Port of Spain was harrowing, ranging from as short as 2 hours to as long as 2 days in travel. Regrettably, a few of you endured every traveler's nightmare, from canceled flights to lost luggage to stringent immigration checks here at our airport. However, I hope the smiling faces of my central bank staff who greeted you at the airport, the official and sometimes heart-stopping police escort from the airport to the Hyatt, and a hopefully smooth check-in process all help to make up for the frustrations of an arduous journey. I know the work you will do here for the next 2 days will also make your journey worth the inconveniences you've faced. My GPF 2014 journey started 2 years ago. The first speech I delivered after being appointed governor shaped my destiny, as it was on the topic of financial inclusion. 7 months after, Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago became the 100th member of AFI. And 6 months later, my senior manager, with responsibility for everything under the sun, as I have retitled her, Mrs. Nicole Crooks, came to Malaysia and accepted the gong for Trinidad and Tobago to host GPF 2014. So that is the story of how we all got here. Now I'll tell you the why you got here from a Trinidad and Tobago perspective. For the last 30 years, starting with when I was a teenager, and yes, I was a teenager 30 years ago, not yesterday, as some of you seem to think, pointing out my boyish looks. There have been a few financial crises that have gripped our country. It has been painful to see people suffer after placing their trust in financial institutions that ran aground. I would say maybe that is when destiny played a part in my life, and I became an economist instead of a medical doctor, which I was aspiring to. We are here because I think all of us know how fragile financial systems are. And as we've seen around the world in the last 7 years, when these fragile systems break, lives are broken. GPF is therefore a significant investment we are all making in strengthening our financial systems for our people's benefit and for our own benefit, to secure people's lives. That is the simple reason we are all here. Through our work in developing financial inclusion strategies, we are helping to provide vulnerable citizens in our countries with better access to banking services, with better access to credit. We are providing them with a way to at least save some of their earnings, to invest in their education, or to even start a new business. We are helping to make a difference between many of our people being caught in a vicious cycle of poverty or escaping and moving into a virtuous circle of growth and prosperity. We are all on a journey. Our destiny has put us together on this journey. AFI's journey to independence has progressed here in Port of Spain, and we are honored to share in that journey. AFI will no longer be a network. In my view, AFI is more than an independent institution. AFI is a family of central bankers and financial policymakers. And like all families, we look after each other. Like it was my destiny to become an economist, I consider my work as a central banker even more critical and important than if I was saving people's lives as a medical doctor. I hope you never forget how and why you are here and the importance of our financial inclusion work. So, as I started, remember where you come from, as it will guide your work over the next few days. In closing, I seize the opportunity as co-host and being the first speaker to publicly say thank you to my Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago family for their human service to financial inclusion and to the people of our country. I say thank you to my liaison officers, drivers, utility attendants, and security officers who are all working round-the-clock shifts. I say thank you to Betty and our 50th anniversary team. Thank you to Charlene and our corporate communications team. And of course, a heartfelt thank you to Nicole, who brought you all to paradise. May the AFI family continue to grow in strength and make the difference we all want to see in our people's financial lives. I thank you.
Thank you, Governor Rambaran, for those timely and applicable remarks. I now invite to the podium Mr. Alfred Hannig. He is the Executive Director of AFI.
Governor Dwala Rambaran, Governor Armando Tetanco, Ministers, Honorable Governors, Deputy Governors, dear AFI members, dear partners of AFI, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome also from my side to the 6th AFI Global Policy Forum. I must admit it is a task to take over after this fabulous speech that we just heard from the Governor. But I'm trying to do my best to keep everyone entertained. Now, as you said, this is also welcome to all our annual family members, their annual family reunion. And Governor Rambaran, really also allow me to thank you for your generosity for bringing us to this place, to the beautiful city of Port of Spain. As the co-host, you and your team have indeed worked so hard to make this happen, to make it really what it is, the nice gathering of the family in this wonderful environment. And I would like to say that, your officer who is responsible for everything under the sun has been very instrumental in making this happen. So thank you very much. Governor Rambaran, you mentioned in your own speech, your inaugural speech that you made 2 years ago. And I must say this is actually the speech that caught our attention, because we are constantly searching the net for wherever AFI is mentioned, and then we came across Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, was not even a member at that time. But this person spoke very eloquently about financial inclusion policy making. So we got in contact, and I think just after a few months, indeed, you joined the network, and you even made a Maya commitment, and you even took the GPF. So this is fast, and I must say this maybe stands for the spirit that we see in the AFI network. But this is not just a gesture. I think we can see that Trinidad and Tobago stands also for what we see in AFI as the challenges that our members are facing. Governor Moran, I think, drew the line between stability and inclusion, not only in his speech. I think he was, in fact, inspired by the crisis that happened. And I think you saw, as many of us, the crisis not as a problem, but perhaps also as an opportunity that actually gives way for financial inclusion to solve the problem. And I think what you have done in this regard, especially on the financial literacy front, as one of the key pillars of the strategy that you are driving, is a very important learning for other AFI members. We are aware that the central bank has been quite active in the field of curricular development for financial education. Even preschool is included in this, and of course the awareness campaigns that you are running. So I think there's a lot the network can take from your early experience. But I also would like to highlight that Governor himself is a leader in the region because he's trying to engage other central banks, not only to join AFI, but particularly to make financial inclusion what it is, namely complementary to financial stability. So thank you for all of that. Governor, you managed to bring 417 registrants. That's a record. And Governor Sethi, I'm sorry to say, that's more than Malaysia. And you may wonder how that can happen, because we all thought, okay, that's quite far away. But you can see that there is a drive in the network, and that is not only the members, but also the partners who I think identify the opportunities right away. When we left Malaysia, I think it was already clear that everyone was looking forward to coming here. We have 87 member institutions from 66 countries, and including all the partners, we have 76 countries around. Now, I'm saying partners because yesterday I got a remark from one of the partners who looked at her badge and said, it says external partners. What's that? And then I thought, okay, maybe she's right, because we can't write internal partners. That sounds awkward, no? So I think we should, in future, drop the external and make it partners, because I think that is perhaps more appropriate to the idea of the family. Now, some members are not here with us today due to the emergency health issues that we are aware of. As we said before, this is out of our hands, but we, of course, show our full solidarity with these members. 5 years ago, when AFI was actually launched, that was an initiative that started from scratch. And the time in between may not seem long to some, but it was an incredible journey with membership growth, expansion of working groups, Maya commitments, various roles under the G20, and finally transition to independence and the new location. And now, after a fierce competition and a careful selection, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia has been chosen as the headquarter of AFI. Saying headquarter, that of course implies that there must be some other quarter. We are thinking about how to regionalize our activities. Congratulations to you, dear Governor Sethi, and the Malaysian authorities for your offer and your effort to host AFI. No one is actually aware in this room, or maybe not many people are aware in this room, the package, the offerings that Malaysia has put into this proposal. I cannot go into detail. All I can tell you, these are excellent conditions that I think can help AFI really to make the next step towards this independent organization. Thank you for your generosity, Governor. As of today, we have 121 member institutions from 95 countries, and that reflects more than 85% of the world's unbanked population. And our newest members include the Central Bank of Mauritius, the Central Bank of Russia, and the Central Bank of the Seychelles. And I'm aware that Deputy Governor Vladimir Chistyukin from Central Bank of Russia is among ourselves. Would you identify Vladimir? And we also have Madame Jennifer Sullivan, second Deputy Governor from Central Bank of Seychelles with us. Madame Sullivan, thank you. The latest member is Uganda Insurance Regulatory Authority, a specialist member not represented today. Now, the challenge for us is, of course, to make the independence happen. And one big problem we have solved, we have the new location. But there's another issue, and that is governance and membership fee. And I think we have worked very hard yesterday under the able guidance of Professor Ndungu, subcommittee chair, to take things really to the next level. And I'm pretty aware that there is a lot of consensus in the room, especially on the governance issues, but also on the membership fee schemes. I think we have really covered a lot of ground. We will inform you at the end of the forum what the conclusions are that the steering committee is taking away so that we can make the next step. So thanks for your wonderful support in this, and I can only tell you, I think we are on the way. As we all know, this incredible success of the AFI network, even bringing us here to Trinidad and Tobago, would never have been possible without the generous support of our very like-minded funding partners who are represented today. So we have again Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation with us, Jason Lamp and Sasha Polverini, who are in the room. We have Susanne Dorazil from the German Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development with us, who has become a long-term partner. And it is my particular pleasure to announce that the Omidyar network has just joined us as a new investment partner. And I'm saying investment partner because that's the language Omidyar is using when it makes even, these social investments in partners like ourselves, maybe with the idea to generate a social rate of return that in fact contributes to your own global objectives. So let me introduce to you Arjuna Costa, who is representing Omidyar Network here. And Arjuna, thank you for coming on board. And as we have talked already, we see our relationship not only as a funding partnership, we also see it as an intellectual partnership. We are looking forward to working together. Thank you. Now, the diversity of the AFI world is so manifold that it would take me hours to speak about it. But, I'm really I'm a very gifted person. For example, in the last 2 months, I was traveling. And I was traveling to Mexico, to Russia, to Macedonia, to Rwanda, to Senegal, and to China in the last 2 months. And I can tell you, in every of these places, there is what I would call, in a very colloquial language, a wow effect. I'm sitting there and I think, wow, what is going on? In Mexico, I was amazed to see how much the government and all the leadership has incorporated financial inclusion into the stability equation. And even Madame Lagarde was there mentioning that now financial inclusion is the driver of economic development. We wouldn't have heard that 5 years ago. That's fantastic. I mean, we would have heard that 5 years ago, but perhaps not from the same person. Now, the other one was Russia. I was amazed to see how Russia is dealing with the issue of shadow banking. Many of us have a kind of negative connotation when it comes to shadow banking. In Russia, it was interesting. Russia is trying to unbundle the term and is trying to figure out what are the positive elements. What do we want to promote? Of course, we're not talking about those cases that are actually facing issues like regulatory arbitrage, but what are the cases where we need those ones who are non-bank financial institutions and who can help to make financial inclusion happen. So we are going to continue this dialogue, and it was very inspiring to be in St. Petersburg just 2 months ago. In Macedonia, again, I could see that all what counts in AFI is that you have members who just joined the network and they have many questions. But as soon as you interact on a personal level, there's excitement, there is support. And I do learn that Macedonia is already moving forward to host working group and other events to support the network. That's fantastic after such a short period of time. In Rwanda, when Governor John Rangomba invited us for his 50th anniversary, I was stunned to see how far the whole discussion on interoperability has come. 3 years ago, we were struggling with the term, and some of our regulators had such an opinion, others had a different opinion, perhaps industry had even another opinion. In Rwanda, there was a consensus on the whole issue of convergence, open ecosystems, interoperability. We have come a long way in the last 5 years, and this is exciting to see for us how things unfold. In Senegal, I talked to Governor Kone, and I was reminded that digital is important, but we also have to look into the existing microfinance network that they have built up over years. So how can we connect digital and microfinance institutions to make things happen? And finally, I was in China just last week, and I was amazed to hear that China has really recognized the importance of technology in driving financial inclusion. 5 years ago, when I was there, we didn't talk about digital. When I now was there, Deputy Governor Li Dongrong elaborated 25 minutes just on this topic and how to close the rural-urban gap through technology. That was fantastic to hear. Just to share with you some of these impressions. Now, this year's theme is, as you heard, global partnerships, national goals, empowering people. Global partnerships materialize in what we do with the private sector today in our private-public dialogue that is going to start, but also our SSB partnership, is standard-setting body peer learning program, is going to move forward. The other issue is national goals. You remember that Sasana Accord in Malaysia gave us the opportunity to further develop Maya Declaration and make it even more measurable and focusing more on quality issues. We are going to get updates, but we are also going to see and to listen to more commitments under Maya Declaration. And the third component is empowering people. Let me just remind you, we often listen to regulators and they were asking us, why are we doing this? Of course, it's good to have new regulations in place. It's good to look after stability. But ultimately, it's all about the people. And I think this is the important dimension that especially comes through when we talk about consumer protection and financial education. So that's going to be another focus of this forum. The next 2 days are going to be fun and productive, I'm sure, and useful. And as usual, we are expecting fruitful discussions. Don't miss the quiz show. This afternoon, we are going to have another innovation, and we will test your knowledge on financial inclusion. So those of you who are very knowledgeable, please stay in the room. Those of you who are maybe not so knowledgeable, please also stay in the room, because it is an educational session for those ones who might maybe not know that GPFI principles are not 10 but only 9 and things like that. So we will test you a little bit on these issues. This GPF's big deliverables will be 3, and I can't mention all the others, and I don't want to downgrade anything else that is going to be done. But we will hopefully see some agreement around the public-private dialogue. We will see some consensus on what we call the friction paper on global standards, a paper that actually should emphasize what are the issues around global standards and how they impact on financial inclusion. This paper will be presented to the standard setting bodies on 2nd of October on the highest level by the AFI network. And we will also have new Maya commitments. So looking ahead and building on the GPF, what we are going to do in the next couple of months and in the next year is we will intensify, following your demand, our capacity building activities. We will work on the global standards dialogue. We will certainly have an event with some of the emerging countries who are dealing with the issues of shadow banking. We will start regional initiatives like the one with Eastern Central Europe, Central Asian countries, but also Central America. And here again, I would like to mention the enormous impact that our regional coordinators have on this work, Ilya Svetlov and Carlos Moya, who are working both in the regions. And we will further develop the policy profiles. They were encouraged by the last GPF when members said, we have so much of knowledge, why don't we systematically create a repository to share with others what we are doing. So this is going to be presented this afternoon. Before I thank, I really want to thank our outgoing chair, Armando Tetanco, Governor of Central Bank of the Philippines. And I cannot only thank the chair, I must thank the Central Bank of the Philippines, because it's the whole team that is always reachable, always committed, always constructive, puts resources, and it's actually a great working relationship that we developed. When I have an issue, Deputy Governor Espinilla will immediately leave the meeting, call me back, and I know what your schedule looks like. So thank you very much for all your work and your hard dedication that you brought into the network. Thank you. Thank you, BSP. But I have no doubts that the incoming chair will mobilize similar, how can I say, engagement. I mean, looking at the team that came last night on stage, that was impressive, and it seems that you have a strong force that will help us equally. You have seen yesterday at the award session how our Peruvian team in fact showed their dedication to the topic, but also, I think, of following the instructions of the AFI team in terms of wearing their national dress. So that was really great. I hope all of you will enjoy this opportunity to meet old friends and make new contacts. I thank you all AFI members, funders, investors, donors, partners, and other stakeholders. Thank you for coming to this GPF. Thank you for bringing us here, Governor Rambaran. And I can't wait to start. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanig. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome now on stage Governor Armando Tetanco Jr., Governor Banco Central na Pilipinas and Chair of the AFI Steering Committee.
Thank you very much, Governor Joala Rambaran, Governor Seti Akhtar Aziz of Bank Negara, Malaysia, future host of the AFI headquarters, ministers, fellow governors, Dr. Alfred Hanig, distinguished delegates, partners of AFI, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is indeed a privilege to speak at this opening of the 2014 Alliance for Financial Inclusion Global Policy Forum, which has quickly evolved into the world's major gathering of policymakers, regulators, prime movers, and advocates of financial inclusion. Today, as mentioned by previous speakers, we have a record number of over 400 participants. This is a 300% increase from the first GPF in 2009. Let me thank Central Bank Governor Rambaran for hosting the 2014 GPF. We can say that it is appropriate that we're holding this event here in paradisical Trinidad and Tobago, a firmly committed member of AFI. But in addition to that, TNT is also the birthplace of Calypso music. After all, the GPF is quite an upbeat, fun, and engaging assembly of AFI members and friends. Holding this GPF here on the 50th anniversary of the country's central bank Happy anniversary, Governor. Which is that 100th member of AFI lends added color to this gathering. As outgoing chair of the steering committee, I'm privileged that my last opportunity to open the GPF comes at this point in AFI's history. The past 2 years have been crucial to set in motion the transformation processes that have driven the AFI journey to independence. Now we are about to cross the proverbial Rubicon as AFI leaves its project status and becomes an international organization. We are embarking on a fundamental change that requires our solid resolve as a global network. AFI's transformation as an international organization with juridical entity will strengthen its DNA, the member-driven, equitable, and inclusive nature of AFI's governance, membership, and activities. This DNA has set AFI apart as a policy-driving network. It has effectively mobilized financial sector policymakers, regulators, and international organizations to proactively confront the challenges of financial exclusion. The success of AFI can be attributed to what we can call the 3 C's: commitment, collaboration, and concrete results. Commitment is an important first step in the attainment of any goal. As one of the pioneer members, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas can attest to the steadfast engagement of AFI members and partners in activities and programs toward financial inclusion. We have benefited from the commitment of visionary funding partners who believe in the concept of AFI and has sustained us in our journey toward increasing access to financial services for the poor. The trust and support of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, German International Cooperation, Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, and other donors like the Australian Agency for International Development facilitated the exponential growth of AFI. With 6 short years, it's now a network of 121 member institutions from 95 developing countries. Future commitments from like-minded donors will surely fortify AFI's ability to continuously undertake its important mission. AFI would not be what it is now without the commitment of members who devoted substantial time, resources, and expertise to make AFI activities fruitful and successful. If you count just the face-to-face meetings of the 7 AFI working groups, we get a total of 57 meetings from 2010 to 2014. Steering committee meetings and those of the subcommittees on independence, host country evaluation, and global standards are not yet accounted for in this number. If time is gold, then it is clear the membership definitely invested so much in the AFI journey. Underpinning this investment in time and resources is AFI's members' commitment to achieving our shared vision of a financially inclusive world. AFI members firmly supported the Maya Declaration in 2011 and the consequent Sasana Accord in 2013. These declarations are documentary proof of members' dedication to implement concrete and measurable policies and programs that expand inclusion in their respective jurisdictions. To date, 47 out of 121 member institutions have publicly articulated their own Maya commitments. While targets and accomplishments vary from country to country on account of domestic contexts, the most significant outcome of the Maya Declaration is increased institutional accountability. By AFI's count, a total of 71 measurable policy improvements have been made by the Maya countries. The second C is a blend of collaboration and cooperation, which describe, one, how AFI members interact with each other, and two, how the AFI network engages with external stakeholders. Collaboration and cooperation is inherent in the design of AFI's signature platforms, the working groups, and the knowledge exchanges. The working groups, with membership total of at least 194 individuals, function as communities of practice. As peers on equal footing, they share and discuss ideas to produce outputs that are relevant in policymaking and program development. These outputs include guideline notes, discussion papers, surveys, data indicators, case studies, and peer reviews, which we collectively call knowledge products. These products constitute majority of the AFI library and serve as useful references for AFI members and external interested parties. Like other AFI members, the BSP benefited from the working groups as we implemented various aspects of our financial inclusion agenda. For example, our national baseline survey on financial inclusion was enriched through peer reviews by CNBV Mexico and Bank of Tanzania in the Data Working Group. Our regulatory perspective on digital financial inclusion was constantly deepened through the interactions in the Mobile Financial Services Working Group. These are just a few examples, considering that the BSP is an active member in all the working groups, save for the regional group of Pacific Islands. On the other hand, the knowledge exchange, one of the most availed of grants by AFI members, is a structured, purposive, and on-site study visit. As recipient of one and host of 20 AFI knowledge exchanges since 2010, the BSP can attest that the KX is mutually beneficial to the visitor and the host. It facilitates open, candid dialogue among regulators facing similar issues but operating in different domestic situations. Many policy solutions are informed by lessons learned from knowledge exchanges. For example, our consumer protection framework and financial education program were inspired by what we learned in no small measure from a KX with Bank Negara, Malaysia. We shared our regulatory experience with colleagues from the Bank of Tanzania and later provided insights on their draft electronic money regulations. I'm sure that AFI members also have interesting stories to tell about their KX experiences. Collaboration and cooperation likewise characterize AFI's engagement with external stakeholders. This approach has resulted in rewarding partnerships and increased global attention on financial inclusion. Let me cite some examples. We have initiated and will continue to deepen the engagement with standard-setting bodies through a structured peer learning program. Global standards greatly affect the level of exclusion, as well as the range, quality, and affordability of financial products available to clients at the bottom of the pyramid. AFI is in a unique position to contribute value to the SSB discussions, given the wealth of experience that the membership has in practicing the proportionality principle in a manner that is conducive to financial inclusion. Presently, the BSP chairs the Basel Consultative Group workstream on financial inclusion. This working group aims to form an overall risk picture on financial inclusion that would be of particular relevance to banking supervisors around the world. AFI members provided valuable inputs to the work stream through their participation in the Range of Practice survey. As implementing partner of the G20 Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion, or GPFI, AFI has gained stature as the voice of the developing world in the area of financial inclusion. We significantly contributed to the development of the G20 principles for innovative financial inclusion. Finally, AFI's regular collaboration with the G24 in conducting policy forums continues to deepen awareness on financial inclusion issues and inspire action among G24 member countries. Commitment, collaboration, and cooperation are necessary, but insufficient to beget success. These factors must translate into the third C, concrete results. The results-oriented culture of AFI ensures that policy solutions, regulatory enhancements, and program interventions always benefit the ultimate stakeholder whom we are all targeting to serve, the financially excluded. To date, we have seen policy solutions that resulted in, among others, 16.7 million mobile money accounts for 15% of adults, achieved within 2.5 or 2.5 years in Bangladesh. 17 million mobile money accounts for 67% of adults, achieved within 7 years in Kenya. 19.4 million basic bank accounts for 27% of adults, achieved within 5 years in Mexico. 26.7 million mobile money and cash card accounts, achieved within 4 years in the Philippines. 1.7 million savings accounts for 25% of adults, achieved within 4 years in Rwanda. These sample data from selected AFI members reinforce the importance of impact measurement and monitoring. As responsible policymakers and program implementers, we must verify that our actions are indeed achieving inclusion objectives. We can only claim true success if we have incontestable proof that global partnerships and national goals adequately empower our ultimate stakeholders. As I end my term as chairman of the steering committee, allow me to extend deep appreciation to my distinguished colleagues in the committee, all member institutions, our strategic partners and donors, and the AFI management unit for your unwavering support to the steering committee. Your active and thoughtful participation in the committee and in AFI processes has indeed made our work much more manageable and gratifying. And you may have guessed from what Alfred said earlier in his speech that the incoming chair of the steering committee is Daniel Shizkovsky of Peru. As I contemplated an appropriate ending to my opening remarks, TNT came to mind. Not only because it resembles the initials of our host country, Trinidad and Tobago, but also because of the massive force of change that we want to make and take place in our respective countries. Let us therefore all keep the 3 C's of AFI brightly aglow to see forceful initiatives in AFI's future to catapult financial inclusion to greater heights around the world. Thank you, and once again, good morning to all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Tatango. Ladies and gentlemen, we move on now to a very special part of this morning's program, the ringing of the gong. It is the Global Policy Forum's tradition to ring the gong, which you see here on stage, to officially open the forum. This gong has traveled a very long way from Bali, Indonesia, to Mexico, South Africa, and Malaysia last year, and now here in Trinidad and Tobago. To do the honors, I would like to invite on stage Governor Rambaran, Dr. Hanig, and Governor Titango. Now, Governor Rambaran, you are asked to ring the gong 3 times, only 3 times. That's the tradition. Thank you for doing the honors, Governor Rambaran, Dr. Hanig, and Governor Titango. Ladies and gentlemen, we now officially open the Global Policy Forum 2014 in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you all for your participation in the opening. Now we would like to invite our keynote speaker from the new host of AFI, Governor of Bank of Negara, Malaysia, Governor Zeti Akhtar Aziz.
Governor Rambaran, Governor, Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, our most gracious host for this 6th AFI Global Forum, Policy Forum, Governor Titango, Excellencies Ministers, Mr. Alfred Hennick, Honorable Governors, distinguished members of AFI, ladies and gentlemen. It is my very great honor to be invited to speak at this year's AFI Global Policy Forum in beautiful Trinidad and Tobago. First of all, on behalf of Malaysia, let me express how greatly honored we are to be given the opportunity to host the headquarters of AFI. Malaysia is strongly committed to the financial inclusion cause, and we will strive to the fullest and best of our ability to provide the necessary support to AFI towards achieving its objectives. It is my honor this morning to be invited to speak. This is a very exciting time for advancing the global financial inclusion agenda. As the world economic recovery gains further progress, and as there's an increasing world attention and priority being accorded to achieving financial inclusion and to an economic progress that is more inclusive. Ladies and gentlemen, while stability and growth has been restored in many parts of the world, all of us recognize that economic growth, no matter how stellar, will begin to fade when inequality sets in and as income disparities widened. Additionally, experience has shown that financial crises and economic recession entrenches the cycle of poverty. It has been estimated that during financial crises, poor households lose 10 times more of their income compared to the average household. The role of financial inclusion has thus become more magnified as a means to improve the livelihoods and as a means to strengthen financial resilience of the disadvantaged. It provides the opportunity to save for the future, to invest and generate income, and to insure against adverse events. The relative stability and improving global conditions, therefore, provides us with the opportunity to accelerate the financial inclusion agenda as a global imperative. The theme of this year's forum, Global Partnerships, National Goals, Empowering People, highlights that financial inclusion is a shared responsibility. The significant progress that has been achieved in advancing financial inclusion has also provided us with the opportunity for further advancement that would support and facilitate greater scale and sustainability of inclusive finance. Allow me to touch on 5 potential areas which I believe would cumulatively contribute towards advancing financial inclusion to its next level, both at the national and international level. Significant strides, as we have heard, have already been made in a number of areas of improving access to financial services. Within a short span of 3 years, AFI has been instrumental in galvanizing commitments from member countries to enhance financial inclusion policies, resulting in 20 million of the unbanked to gain access to financial services. Yet, we wish to achieve more than just access. The nature and quality of financial services and the nature of the participation in the financial system is equally important. The poor are confronted with challenging circumstances, such as low and irregular income that makes monthly debt servicing difficult, or living in remote rural areas which have no financial service access points, or long working hours that prevent visiting bank branches within the conventional operational hours. As a result, many of the marginalized may have financial services made available to them, but it may not be at the needed conditions or quality that can provide real promise for upward mobility. Access, therefore, needs to be complemented by the quality of the financial services. Of importance is the innovation and design of consumer products that have characteristics that are linked to the goal of welfare improvements for the underserved. There is a great need for features that are responsive to the constraints faced by those that have been marginalized. Flexible microfinance for the agricultural sector, for example, addresses the cash flow mismatches between fixed repayments to banks and the irregular income flow of farmers due to seasonality of crops. A further innovation has also involved the creation of platforms for matching savers with those that need financing. It may be interesting to note that in Malaysia, in our Islamic finance, the introduction of investment accounts as opposed to that of deposit accounts is an example where savings are matched with the funding required by small and medium-scale enterprises for financing specific projects, and this has resulted in investment intermediation by banking institutions. In addition to innovation, technology is also an agent to deliver quality financial services. Technology most certainly can lower costs, increase outreach, and expand the range of financial services. I wanted to mention the Kenyan mobile payment services, the M-Pesa, leverages on mobile technology to provide the poor with high-frequency, small-value transactions and affordable financial services. Ladies and gentlemen, the second area relates to identification and adoption of the measurable and time-bound targets. Clear and measurable outcome provide a shared understanding that will align the different stakeholders towards the common goal of delivering results to the financially excluded segments of society. A key aspect of realizing the Sasana Accord is to collect and compile the relevant data in a reliable and timely manner. This will also form a basis for better policy formulation, effective monitoring and assessments, and of the effectiveness of the policies. Data coverage needs to involve both the mobilization of savings and the financing activities, including the information on the profile of the new entrants into the formal financial system. This is not only to promote effective participation in the financial system, but also to avoid conditions of over-leverage and indebtedness. This is something that we have discovered in a few financial systems, and including in my own in Malaysia, where when we increase the access to the financial system, then the trend arises to over-leverage and indebtedness. So this needs to be managed very carefully. Access to credit registries to financial services providers would also provide support to the sustainability of supply of such services. Such financial statistics also may need to evolve with the changing environment, including on the range of products and services, the distribution channels, and the relative performance of the borrower and the financier. This will allow for early detection of risks and vulnerabilities and allow us to implement prompt policy responses to ensure sustainable financial intermediation for the underserved. The third area relates to the role of regulation and supervision in financial inclusion. Today, there's a growing consensus that policy goals of financial stability, financial integrity, consumer protection, and financial inclusion are all complementary and mutually reinforcing. There's now a rethinking of prudential and conduct regulation to reflect more the proportionate approach. The validation by the global standard-setting bodies, including the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision, the Insurance Association on Insurance Supervisors, and the Financial Action Task Force, that regulation should be commensurate with the risks, benefits, and costs is a significant step forward to improving regulatory and supervisory conditions that will be consistent with the conditions for financial inclusion. While the principles of proportionality are widely embraced, there's much less clarity on how they can be applied in practice to reflect the risks associated with low-income households and small businesses. The practical issues can be challenging, particularly in the context of full-service banks. Lending and provisioning standards, reporting requirements, minimum capital adequacy, and customer due diligence requirements are amongst the key areas in which there is still little formal distinction made to address the impact of such regulations on access to financial services to the low-income households and small borrowers. Global standard-setting bodies, therefore, have an important role in accelerating the conversion of proportionality principles into practice. This will be important in the assessment of national financial systems and how it measures up against global financial standards. For example, under the Financial Sector Assessment Program, the FSAP, therefore, there are significant benefits to be gained from the provision of guidance to authorities on how regulation can be assessed for its impact on access. Such considerations could also be reflected in the methodologies adopted by international bodies for financial sector assessments and peer reviews. the capacity and capability of authorities to provide supervisory oversight to financial services that target the underserved is equally important. Our experience has been that supervisory skill sets required to evaluate the effectiveness of controls over microfinancing and microinsurance operations differ substantially from those traditionally applied to the retail portfolio of banks and insurance companies. A greater understanding of the product design implications, the relationship that a financial service provider has with its customers and different motivations that drive consumer behavior will all be important. This is to avoid counterproductive supervisory actions on financial access. The fourth area relates to greater empowerment of consumers through consumer protection and education. This is mentioned significantly by the other speakers. Both the financial services industry and the financial consumers have an important role for financial inclusion to transition to a higher level. Financial inclusion is best achieved when consumers are assured of fair treatment. In developing financial products by the service providers, of great importance is their professional and ethical conduct. Here, the role of boards and senior management of such financial services providers need to set the right culture, policies, and incentive systems that support fair and responsible business practices. Policies that promote responsible market conduct that is reinforced by transparent disclosure requirements will be important in advancing financial inclusion. A key aspect of a successful financial inclusion agenda is also the building of capability of consumers so that they can meaningfully participate in the financial system. Financial education, as with other forms of education, is a powerful agent of empowerment. It empowers consumers with the knowledge, skills, and tools to build, manage, and protect their personal wealth. In Malaysia, our efforts to systematically build financial capability amongst the population began 20 years ago, in 1996, when a national savings promotion campaign was launched to enhance awareness on the importance of saving, including among school children. Ladies and gentlemen, the fifth and final area relates to that which has been highlighted in the theme of this forum, the need for greater cooperation and innovative partnerships. The goal of achieving financial inclusion that delivers a positive impact to the poor is a shared responsibility. The barriers to financial inclusion can only be resolved when different stakeholders, each with different span of authority and oversight, work together in a coordinated and cohesive manner. It will need to involve the cumulative efforts of governments, regulators, market agents, the financial services industry, and the consumers. At the national level, improving interagency cooperation is vital to ensure that the respective strategies are aligned to achieving the common goals of financial inclusion. This may call for institutional arrangements to bring authorities together to secure a joint commitment towards clearly defined and measurable financial inclusion goals with well-defined lines of accountability. Brazil, Mexico, Tanzania, Indonesia, and Fiji have already established such a national coordination framework, which offer AFI members, such as us in Malaysia, these diverse examples of such national collaboration. While we focus on financial inclusion initiatives at the national level, equally important is the adequate attention to be accorded at the national level. In this regard, AFI assumes a unique role because it is the only global network that comprises of practicing financial inclusion policymakers. Therefore, AFI has an important role in leading the way in gathering examples of best practices based on specific country experience in the area of financial inclusion and its relation to financial stability and consumer protection objectives. AFI is therefore also a key platform that brings together policymakers, financial service providers, telecommunication, technology industries to have greater awareness on the trends that can support the advancement of financial inclusion. Additionally, AFI's engagement with the international organizations is also key given the implications of their initiatives on financial inclusion. Allow me to conclude, there is now greater appreciation that the level and quality of financial inclusion will have a significant impact on the prospect for balanced and sustainable growth. AFI has demonstrated its important role in leading the way for greater financial inclusion in the world economy. AFI is unique because its membership covers practitioners from developing and emerging economies who can share approaches that can be customized to any respective country's unique circumstances. We begin this two-day Global Policy Forum with our vision firmly focused on our long-term goal of universal access to quality financial services which provide our communities with a chance to change. This Global Forum and AFI provides an unparalleled opportunity that brings together strategy, knowledge, expertise, and the best practices from across AFI membership. This provides us with the real potential to make a difference in financial and economic inclusion, and thus with the potential to transform lives. Thank you very much.